I don't wanna get in trouble, but every time I hear you laugh, I get into trouble. Wicked, why you gotta be so wicked? And the moment that you caught my eyes, I'm in trouble. Forgive me for wanting, but I just can't think anymore. When I see you, I'm in trouble. So enchanted by you. Why you gotta be so cruel? No, you made my knees weak, my heart stopped a beat. I still want you. Forgive me for wanting, but I just can't think anymore. When I see you, I'm in trouble. So enchanted by you. Trouble.
Is anyone here? What did you find? You are listening to Supernatural Confessions.
Hello, guys. Welcome back to On The Fringe with Bill and Matt. It's been a while. Happy Chinese
It's
New
been
Year.
a
Very
while.
belated Chinese New
Happy
Year.
Chinese. Yeah, we actually just finished Chinese New Year, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we
yeah.
are in a new season of On the Fringe. And there's a lot of things coming up. So, it's we're gonna start off with something that's close to many people's hearts, especially since Chinese New Year just ended.
hmm
Um, you just need to get used to the new timing. We decided to push the show a little earlier, just because we can keep you guys company. You can have dinner, eat dinner while listening to us.
Well, it was also like it's the middle of the week. It's a hump day, and we feel like people are getting burned out. People are getting burned out if we're doing stuff until like 11. So let's
Yeah,
let's
that's
do it a
also
bit
true.
earlier, and everyone can go to bed on time, and we don't have to be so knackered for work tomorrow morning. So
Yeah, I mean, both ways to give you guys a better show, but also so that we can give you guys more energy so we can see. I don't think we're as tired as if it was at 10 o'clock later on, but I think we're slightly more, how do you say, energetic.
more alert. We're definitely more alert. And
Yeah,
also, first,
Bill's cracking the beer.
yep, first beer of the new season. So, what are we talking about today, Matt?
So today we're talking about, if you guys saw the post, we're talking about the story and the legend of the Nian. Now, for people that don't know what the Nian is a a part of legends in the Chinese folklore, where there's actually different stories about its conception, essentially,
hmm
and it plays a big part in the roles of a lot of Chinese people, even to this day. A lot of people think that the Nian is the reason why certain traditions and certain practices are followed the way we are, or what
Yep,
the
yep,
way it
yep,
is now. So for the color red example, or firecrackers and a lot of this other stuff.
yep,
So
yep, yep, yep.
that's something that we'll get to and we'll talk about slowly throughout this episode. But let me just give you guys a briefing on the three different possibilities of the story. So the story of the Nian starts in one case is that every year during the Chinese New Year, um, this monster, this creature, will come out of the sea or the mountains, depending on the story, will come out of the sea or the mountains to come down to a village in China. And basically, what it would do, it would ransack and it would eat people. It would eat its crops, it would eat its livelihood. I mean, the livestock and all sorts of stuff. And people started getting, like scared because it happens every year. It's just nothing's actually happening, and they don't know what to
Yeah.
do about it. So what happens is that in one of the stories, there was a old man just before the eve of the new year that came to the village. Everybody was panicking, getting ready to, move up to the mountains because that's when the Nian comes into the villages. This old man comes in and he's just wondering like, okay, why is everybody like freaking out? So he goes up to this old lady, and this old lady just was the only one that kind of paid attention to him, and she kind of spoke to him and said, yeah, this monster comes down every year, and we're all actually packing up so that we can move out of the village so that we don't get eaten, or everything is protected. So
Hmm.
what then happens is he says, okay, how about let me use your house since you're not going to be around. Let me use your house, and I will promise I will get rid of that Nian, the monster for you. And she's a bit skeptical, so she says, "Okay, why not? I'm not gonna be at home anyway. So here you go." So just when the clock strike 12, the monster came. The Nian came down from the mountains, sort of announcing its presence. It came into the village, but he saw all the villages, all the lights were off, nobody was around. He was just looking around, thinking, "Okay, what's going on?" Until he saw this one house. This one house has the only house with lights on. So what he does, I mean, he just goes up to it, and then he suddenly sees that the door's painted red, everything's painted red. There are lanterns, there are lights, and the Nian sort of freaks out. And what happens next is the old man comes through the door, and he's just super boastful and loud, and he just starts throwing firecrackers and stuff. And he was wearing this red robe, and the firecrackers and the red clothes kind of chased him away. So the next day, what happens is the villagers came back and they realized, okay, wait, the guy's still here. So they go to the door, everything's still intact, and then the guy comes out and says, "Yep, I fixed your problem for you. Uh, this is what you need to do next time if the monster comes back." Simple as that. Now, in some stories, he also says that he is a celestial god, right? He's a god that came down, sort of took pity on them to help them chase away the issue. So that's one version of the story. Now, there's
Okay.
another version of the story where this person, if some of you in the comments of the chat may know, um, his name is Hongjun Laotu. Now, he is very important to the Taoist tradition. Um, he's actually a deity as well. So his story is slightly different, and it's honestly a little bit funnier. So now this person is known to actually have, after the fact, after this whole chasing the Nian away, he's actually captured it and then started to ride him away. So in some pictures you may see he actually rides the Nian. So
Oh, yep, yep, yep. I've
basically,
seen a few of those.
yeah, so you've seen it. So every Chinese New Year, same thing happens. The Nian comes down. Now, one Chinese New Year, this monk, Hong Tu Lao Tzu, he comes down to the village in China. He saw everybody sad, frightened. Everything's pretty much the same. He's saying it's Chinese New Year. Everybody, we gotta, celebrate. It's time for celebrations. And then somebody also came up to him and said, "I mean, don't you know about? Have you heard the story of the Nian?" And then he didn't know, so he says the monk went to say, "Okay, I will go reason with him, and we will figure it out together, I suppose." So
Mhm.
when the monk went to the Nian, he said, "Nian, I have come to reason with you. Stop eating and terrorizing the people of China." Just a bit like Doctor Strange did with Dormammu, if you have watched that show. The Nian said, "Okay, you've delivered yourself to me. Now I'm going to eat you." And the man said, "Okay, what? I mean, eating him isn't great. Like, there's no point." So then, through a bit of discussion, the Nian even went to, in this part, the Nian went to destroy the other beast in the mountains. And he came back and said, "Okay, I'm ready. Now it's time to eat you." So the guy said, "Okay, sure. Just give me a minute while I take off my clothes. I'll taste much better then." So the old man takes off his clothes and to reveal his underwear, which were red. And then he said, "Okay, you can eat me now." But the Nian said, "Ah, red underwear. I hate red. Get on my sight quickly." And then the old man started laughing and said, "Ha, I knew you were afraid of red." So the Nian just disappeared somewhere. He went back. So the old man went back to town and said, "Okay, villagers, don't be scared. The Nian is terrified of the color red. From now on, each of your house must be painted or paste red in the front of the door to prevent the Nian from creating havoc. So after that, this starts the tradition with a lot of people pasting photos or like sayings on their main doors in order to keep the Nian from coming into their house.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
would you say this legend is has a very big influence in how Chinese New Year is celebrated nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, like for those that have just celebrated, you know that there are certain traditions and things that people follow, especially in Singapore and elsewhere. You know, the color red is a very prominent color. We
Hmm.
have, if you're from Malaysia, you also have firecrackers, you have sounds, you have drums, you have lion dances. And hold on to the lion dance thing because I'll get back to it in a little bit.
Yep.
But there's a lot of things that this story came out of, and this story actually came from the early I think it was the 400 300 BCE. So it's
Hmm.
been going on for very long. People suggested that it may have passed through a lot of like through the word of mouth, but people
Yeah,
have actually
yeah,
written it down and wrote it out. So it's quite interesting.
yeah. I mean, I have my own theories uh about the origin of the stories and how like the Nian came to be in like a commonly accepted fact of, hey, this is what we do in China on Chinese New Year. So as with what Matt mentioned, the Legend of the Nian is a very old story. I think public records state it's only been around for 2,000 years, but that's only been 2,000 years of it being recorded as being the
Yeah,
Nian.
yeah.
I think do we have pictures of some old textbooks that depict? Do we have it? No. Okay. Right. Okay. So um, I was about to say something very political, but I'm going to stop myself because YouTube no. Because there's probably a very good reason why there are very few surviving documents
Yes,
past 2,000
I
years,
think.
and we all know why.
Yes, we all know. Yeah.
We all know why, and we cannot talk about it. But uh, throughout ancient cultures, in Southeast Asia, even in like Australia with the Aboriginals, there've always been oral stories and oral traditions, stories handed down from villager to villager, mother to son, then to daughter to whatever. Um, and one common theme that all these stories have is they're meant to teach you something. People, people back then, people in the BCEs, people aren't that free to make fanciful stories. These stories are meant to teach you not to go like alone at night in the woods. They're meant to teach you don't go into still water because you'll get eaten by a crocodile. And in the case of the Nian, it's a creature that is going to attack you on this time of year for whatever reason. So I see it as
As a
a cultural
warning.
lesson, as a warning, as a cultural lesson that, hey, there's a grain of truth in there somewhere, and there might have been a real creature that would have inspired this folklore of the Nian.
Yeah. So I mean, I think you have a lot of sort of points about the Nian in terms of it being a real thing. But I want to start off by saying actually, you know, when you look at the lore, I think as a person who's half Chinese, I hold traditions very true to myself. But there's so many variations to what people say it was. Now, some people said it looks like a lion. It has a lion's body with a
Yep, yep,
snub
yep,
nosed face, so it's sort of looks like that. But there are also stories of it being, a sea beast or
yep,
like a dragon, right?
yep.
Now, because there's so many different kinds of descriptions of what it is. This
Hmm.
ties in also very nicely because there is another Chinese mythical creature. It's called the Xiao. Now, the Xiao is also called the Shang Xiao. So it's the mountain thing, right? Now, a lot of people also said that there are a lot of things that tie in between the two. So some people say that the story and the traditions in terms of Chinese New Year comes from the Nian, but it also
Mm,
comes partially from the Sangxiao. So
yep,
both of them have the same source. They're both afraid of the red. They're both afraid of loud noises,
yep,
and they're quite similar in that aspect. But in terms of what they look like, they're completely different. Now, the Sangxiao is like a imp. It has a like an IMP imp, right?
yep.
So it's very different, and I think there's a lot of different stories, and I think it kind of differs in terms of where it happens in China, where the story is being told in China.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
The very interesting thing I found about the Sang Xiao is I actually came across that name while I was researching stuff about Bigfoot.
Oh,
It was mentioned. It was mentioned.
are
So
you are you
that's a very interesting tie-in. It like kind of like an imp ape-like creature being
yeah,
mentioned,
yeah,
like when you research Bigfoot or like the Yeti or anything like that. So it
yeah,
seems to there's a real difference in how the Nian is described depending on the region. But one thing is common about the Nian across all the stories is that there's always a threat of impending danger of being eaten, and there's always a location involved. And to a certain extent, there is a passing similarity to actual creatures. So if we look at
yeah. I mean,
the
I think
broad-faced one, right? We
yeah,
can equate that to a tiger. Tigers used to be like in the range of China. They used to prevail there. So you could surmise that hey, that's probably them describing a tiger.
yeah,
A sea creature, crocodiles.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think we do have some photos to show you guys, so you can have a rough idea of what it looks like.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I'll-
Let's go
oh,
with the pictures.
in case some people don't know, we have we we have a smooth operator that actually helps us. His name
Yes,
is Alvin De Cruz. He
yes,
also does Wednesdays now
yes,
for a while
yes.
until
For a
we sort
while.
it out. But yeah, why don't you show them a picture of just the Nian? I think we show them. I think the one with the yes, that's good.
Yes.
So there's this is a lot of this is obviously a artistic rendition of I think the story itself.
Mm,
I don't think this was actually what they had in like the books and the different stories that they had. But
mm,
there are a lot of these pictures, and you can see from this a lot of people think that it looks a bit like a lot of people push it to it being looking like a lion, or if those
yep,
people who are known, like if you go to temples or Chinese places, they have those two things sitting in the front. Some people say that could be an yin, but that's where the thing kind of gets confusing.
yep, yep,
And you
yep,
can see a lot of them push towards that image, but if you look at the historical records and what they actually wrote, these aren't exactly what you have. Now you can see in this picture, this is actually the story what I told you guys earlier of
yep,
Hong Tu Lao Tzu, where
yep,
he actually rides the Nian. But this
yep.
Nian kind of looks like a lion. So yeah,
Well, it
I
looks like a
think
tiger. It's very pug-faced. It's very like stout. Um, to me, depending on the region, depending on the story, yeah, they equate to like different like animals that could be there. The only thing that stands out to me would be that's very common in all of them is the horn. The horn is very
yeah,
sus. The horn is the one thing that is,
it's
um,
very sus.
yeah, it's like, hmm,
Yeah, and I mean, so I think KK Hing actually brought up a good point that it kind of looks like the Japanese equivalent, which is called the Kirin. Now, we all need to. I mean, at some point, I think a lot of these stories kind of overlap with one another, and the Kirin is essentially actually has a very close description of what a Nian is. Now, this could be because
okay, wait,
back in the
I'm
day.
gonna debunk that right there,
Okay,
because
okay,
okay, stop. Kirin, um, the drawing of a Kirin that everyone's familiar with on the Kirin beer, right? That is not meant to be a mythical creature. That is a
yes.
monk's interpretation of what he thinks a giraffe is meant to look like, based
Wait,
on descriptions.
Are you for reals?
Yeah, I'm for
Amongst?
real.
Oh, okay. I get what you're trying to say.
Yes. Yes. That is what um, word of mouth does without pictures, how it distorts animals. That's why medieval animals always look so weird.
Yeah, that is true. So I mean, I think that's the point that I was trying to make. That it could be because of historical records and the lack
Mm,
thereof
mm.
actual descriptions of what the Nian is. But back in the day, a lot of people like to they tell stories that in this village this happened, and then they go to somewhere else, and it's back
Yeah,
and forth,
it's like
and
it's like
the story gets twisted over time. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like when
it's
you hear a
Chinese
ghost
whispers.
story. Yeah.
It's Chinese whispers. Like before the, because remember the story originates from the BCE.
Yeah.
This is pretty. Is it before writing? It's before like
Well,
writing, right?
yeah. I mean, the earliest story was. I mean, the earlier recorded documents was actually from the 400 BCE.
Oh,
So I believe this may have started before. The story of the Nian actually came from before. It's just that it was then translated over to this
yeah.
like
Because on
writing.
my notes here, the earliest one that I could find was 206 BCE. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
but
So
yeah, it's a. So imagine you are put yourself in the context of you're a villager, you're a farmer. You're probably not literate. You're definitely not literate.
yeah.
Um, Stories are the only way that you are going to be able to communicate any sense of like teachings of danger
Yeah.
to either your to the next generation and moving past that. So obviously, with every recounting or every retelling, there's always a little bit of a things get added in, things get lost in translation. The I know the Aboriginal tribes got past that by being very studious in the artwork. The Dreamtime artworks, it's been very well documented that many of the creatures depicted there were very real creatures.
Yeah.
Mm,
And I think that's important to look at because I mean, now we're discussing of what we know as or what we think is the Nian now, but what
mm,
was the Nian before? Now, in the context of when it happened, right?
mm.
Again, as Bill said, you need to understand that a lot of people aren't they're not the best known. I mean, they're not very knowledgeable. They're
They're
farmers.
not
They don't know
educated. No, no,
much.
no, no. They're not
Basically,
learned people. They could not afford
basically,
it.
yes, basically, they're not educated. So, I mean, this is my take in terms of coming it from a zoological perspective, and I think it's happened with a lot of other animals in general. And I actually think that the Nian was a misidentification of what we may know now
Mm,
as something completely different.
yes.
It could have been a tiger. It could have been,
A
it could be
crocodile.
anything. Yeah, it could be a crocodile if it's coming out from the water. Could be a
Mm.
lot of different things. Now, and I think, as a villager, if you saw something that you didn't know what it was, you didn't
Dark
see it
at
before, you're
night.
gonna think, yeah, you're gonna think like, oh shit, like that's something crazy. We're gonna, write something or we're gonna tell stories about it. And if it keeps coming, yeah, it makes sense to keep telling people, to stay away from this animal or this creature. Now, it's happened in a lot in history. If you look into stories of, it could be anything. A lot of people used to tell stories in India about elephants being triple the size or something completely different.
Yep.
And a lot of other, a lot of
You
creatures that
have
today are like we know what it is, but to people they're like we don't know what it is. It's some mythical beast that it comes here to destroy all of us.
remember in the 1800s when no, not in the 1800s, sorry, it was in the 1900s and the earlier 20th century where many British and Dutch explorers like completely ignored the idea that a lion could be a man eater.
Oh yeah,
Yep, yep, yep. Whereas in India, it's pretty well documented that tigers are very much man eaters, and lions less so. But yeah,
I mean
yeah,
if they're
yeah.
not lazy,
Oh no,
if they're
if they're
not
not
lazy,
injured or
lions can
sick.
get you.
If they're not injured or sick.
Yeah, so you see, I mean, if you look in the comments, yeah, exactly what I mean. Like, the elephants, it's called a well, I mean, I think there's different things, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And it's happened so many times in history that I don't think that it was something or a mythical creature. It could be something that we know that just to them it didn't make sense. Like for
Oh yeah,
example, even
absolutely.
even in Singapore's context, when we look at Singapore, Singapore's named after a singer, a lion which Sunny Utama saw.
Yeah.
Was it really a lion? If I want to follow zoological knowledge, I actually think it may have been a tiger. Maybe the guy had myopia and needed glasses, but it is what it is. We still stick to our traditions
Yep.
and the things
Yep.
that we
Yep.
know.
Yep. It can, although there is an argument there that tigers,
Yeah,
um, when left out in the wild, when in in competition with one another, um, maybe might develop a little bit of a mane
yeah,
that could be mistaken for it. That's
yeah,
another conversation entirely. But back onto the Nian. So we've established that, hey, this is very likely going to be a case of misidentification of a real
yeah,
creature. Now, there's a few discrepancies with that. Number one, the horn, very, very prominent in all artwork and descriptions of the Nian, is that singular horn.
yeah,
Number two, attacks only come once a year.
yeah.
There's not a single predator on the planet. Wait, yeah, I'm very sure. Not a single predator on the planet that can subsist off eating once a year.
Yeah, I mean, so I was looking to the comments, and I believe Rachel H on YouTube says this was the story that she was told was growing up.
Mm,
The Nan was hungry and wanted to eat because it came out of hibernation when spring came. So, I mean, based on the story, it makes sense, right?
mm.
But if you're really looking at it from a scientific perspective, I mean, animals eat before hibernation too,
Yeah, they
and
stock up a
hibernation,
lot of
especially
food
in
before
especially in that
hibernation.
time, it's significant. Like they eat a lot.
Yeah, like a
Yeah,
crazy amount. Like just look at bears.
yeah, that's
They
true.
eat.
But yeah, let me bring it back to the point though that you said. I mean, it's something that I wanted to mention that kind of ties in exactly
Mm,
because we need to look at the story of Wedneday, and again, it happened like 400 BCE.
yep.
Now, at that point in time, Earth at that point in time was completely different. We had many animals that weren't extinct yet, only until recently. So, there could be a possibility where the thing that they saw is now just extinct and we think it's crazy, but it could be a fossil or it could be something that we have evidence for.
Yes. All right. Cool. So there's a few discrepancies with modern animals. So let's look at ancient animals. Can our smooth operator bring up the picture of the fossil, please? The skull. So, oh. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yes. So, this particular fossil was discovered um, during the 1970s in China, um, and is at first was believed to be physical evidence of a Nian. You can see stout, broad-faced, very short, and a very obvious protruding horn. Right. Can we agree? That looks very suspiciously like a Nian.
Yes, I mean it looks like something that I definitely have no idea what it is. Like if you look at the description of the Nian, yeah, it makes sense of what it could possibly be, especially the
Now,
horn.
now, let's put some skin on it. Right? Let's put some skin on it. So that fossil, that fossil actually belongs to an extinct species of very large hornless rhinoceros from China. Oh, uh, maybe the complete fossil. The complete fossil. I want everyone to have a sense of the size of this thing. So that fossil, that fossil, right, is standing next to a elephant fossil, just in the background over there. This thing, when it was alive, would have been quite like it's quite a few. It's got a few tons over an elephant, and is a herbivore. So my theory is that when that it is the fossil was misidentified already using modern techniques and using fairly modern like paleontology to go, hey, this is a Nian. It took them a couple months to say this is not a Nian. This is this genus of rhinoceros. Now, imagine that you are a poor farmer that maybe a mudslide happened, exposed fossils, tons of cases like that happening before. Or you are a farmer that is unfortunate enough to be born early enough to have one of these things or a herd of these things still roaming about somewhere in the forest.
Yeah.
Now, yes. So, yes, it's hornless. It's a hornless rhino, but the appendage that horn, the supposed horn, is meant to contain is actually a small prehensile snout. It's actually like one of the real life, like what scientists think this particular creature looks like is it looks like a tapir. Looks like a big tapir.
Just a big tapir.
Yeah, a big tapir. A really freaking big tapir. Like you do not want to get in the way of this thing. So, Matt, do you have anything to
Oh,
add to
right.
that?
Yeah.
You're
No, I
like
was gonna
you are
say.
the zoologist here.
I was,
You are
I
the
was gonna
zoologist.
say. No,
I
I
I,
was gonna say.
I want to hear
Um,
your opinion on this.
I so I mean, if you
I've
look at
dropped a few
the
bits of information. So,
yeah, if you look at the fossil, right? I think the only thing is why I don't think why it is what it is per se. I think it's not a tapir. I mean, I can't say it's not a tapir, but why I don't think it's the Nian per se is because the story of the Nian is, I mean, it did say it was a big creature. But this is significantly bigger. I don't think it really has the short snout that it normally would have, that you would traditionally hear from the stories, and I think it's just very different. You know what I mean? And I think that another thing that I think it doesn't make sense is in the stories of the Nian, they would come down from the mountains or wherever
mhm,
to also eat, but and specifically they would purposely eat people.
mhm,
And I think as a tapir, if you're looking at it from herbivore, it doesn't really make sense that it is that herbivore. You know what I mean?
mm. All right, all right. I hear you there. I hear you there. I also thought about that at first. At first, I was like, no way. This thing doesn't look anything like the Nian.
Yeah.
The drawings and descriptions that scientists have put on this thing looks like a giant tapir. Until I had a closer look at what modern rhinos look like and how their skin, their follicles look like. So, if you look at modern rhinos, they have a
Hmm.
lot of saggy skin. They have
Right.
quite a lot of saggy skin. And it could be that because of this saggy skin and because rhinos, believe it or not, do have hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very thin, but again, a forest dwelling rhinoceros, more hair, that's usually
Yeah.
that is
Well, I mean,
believable. That is
and I think the
believable.
thing is, I think there's a few comments that actually, just to clarify, people when I describe it as a snout face thing, just to see, I see your comments, Navi Network. I see
Yeah,
it. It's not a manticore. It is a beast in itself. Some people say it's a lion. It's that kind
yeah.
of creature. Now, it's whether or not it's a does it look like a dog? Is it a is it a lion, is it a tiger, whatever the case, it's not doesn't match exactly that fossil that people see.
Ah, yes, but we've already established how inaccurate stories can be in their descriptions. What we're
Hmm.
what we need to be looking at is not the literal descriptions, it's the little snippets of information and clues that the
Yeah.
story is trying to convey. Number one is that this thing comes down from the mountains. All right. We know that this species of rhinoceros, there has been two discoveries of different species of this particular type of rhinoceros. One is very large, which is the one we saw, and another one which is discovered in the early 2000s, 2015, I believe. That is it's a smaller variant of this species. So
Okay.
both are herbivorous, both are local to China, and both would frequent the dense forests that is commonly associated with mountains and valleys.
Well, so what you're saying is in terms of the environment that it's or the habitat which
I-
stays in, it
Yes,
sort of matches the description of what the Nian is.
yes,
That's what you're
correct,
saying.
correct. Now, let's look at another key piece of information that um, that the Nian is very commonly associated with the fact that it only attacks once a year. Once a
Hmm.
year, right? So it's very odd for a herbivore to attack. But as a biologist, I think you know what I'm getting at here. There's one
Hmm.
time of the year which herbivores, especially rhinoceros and elephants, are especially aggressive. Do you want to explain what
Yep.
that is to the
Yep.
audience?
So, I mean, I think where Bill's going is during this time frame of where herbivores tend to get slightly more aggressive. You see it in rhinos, hippopotamus, and actually quite a even bucks, deers. A lot of reindeers. That's usually when they're about to go into mating season or musk, right? So that's when they tend to one eat a little bit more, but also to just to fight and sort of get their territory and like this is my area. Whatever female comes in here is mine. If a male comes in here, I'm going to attack you, right? So I think that's where you're trying to go with it.
Yep. I'm trying to go with it is that we can infer from modern stories and modern records from how rhinoceros and elephants react during musk. So
Hmm.
elephants, we know, very well documented. They're terrifying during musk. The males
Yeah,
are essentially left alone by the females because it's like you're
too much.
crazy, you're insane. Very well documented that elephants will pick up people, will gore people to death, will step on people, will invade farmland very specifically. That's a very key behavior. They will charge into farmland and eat crops. And if you're in the way of them, you're not getting away scot free. Very similar story to rhinoceros as well. In fact, they're very much more prone to charging at anything. Rhinoceros are already prone to heightened levels of aggression because they don't have very good eyesight. They rely on their senses of smell, on their vibrational senses, and also their hearing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's where it starts to the story gets kind of like convoluted and a bit confusing. So, I mean, I go back to the fact that this is a story that, for the most part, was told based on hearsay and like stories and parables. And I think somebody was saying it. I think it was Saravanan. Yeah. So Saravanan was also saying there's a similar creature or animal that have been there have been pictures of it like in the temples for 1,000 years old, and they're saying that the animal that is depicted there was actually extinct 500 years prior to that. Now,
Yep.
again, because things are being told a lot of the times in word of mouth and in stories, I think what's important is people put up pictures and they kind of draw references from that. And the problem with that is when you keep telling the stories and you put up these pictures, that picture sort of becomes the de facto image of what that thing is.
Yep. 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 Yep.
You know what I mean?
So
And
that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to deconstruct the legend itself. We're trying to go really deep into this and go, hey, all right, we've already established that word of mouth folklore tends to get quite muddled with time,
Hmm.
especially with time, especially if you had like the a change in dynasty
Yeah,
as frequently as China has had, especially within you know the last couple 100,000 years.
yeah.
Let's say.
So I think,
Um,
yeah, I mean, I think that we need to draw some parallels because I mean, with I'm not saying that what Bill says is right. I still think it may have been something completely different. I don't think it's anything mythical. I don't think it's a. It could have been a dinosaur or something that was which is extinct now that we don't know, or something that hasn't been found yet, right? Now, when if you look into just fossils in general, we keep finding new things every time. So maybe we just haven't come across the Nian per se, or what the Nian was said to be.
okay, I'm
So
a very okay. I'm a very big proponent of. I genuinely think dinosaurs went extinct.
yeah, for sure,
Like
except for crocodiles.
crocodiles, different. They're not dinosaurs.
Well,
Very
technically,
similar in the same family, but totally different genus. Would you say? Is that how it's scientifically described?
sort of, but I
They're
mean,
in the
they
same
fall into.
umbrella, right?
I think, yeah, I mean, I think where you're going to go is what you're trying to go with is that you have like the velociraptor, you have the smaller the smaller dinosaurs, which are more feather like, and then you do have the reptilian ones. So yeah, you do have the difference, but from some point in terms of genealogy, they do split from the same vein and the same uh basically common ancestor.
yes, they have a common ancestor, but they're a few steps away from that, and that's why crocodilians are crocodilians and dinosaurs are dinosaurs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so my point with that is I we at On the Fringe are always all about like on the fringe theories. The
Hmm.
dinosaur theories is one of those theories which I genuinely believe modern day dinosaurs or even like human memory dinosaurs. No, very much no. Very much no.
Right.
Now, giant lizards, monitor lizards, Komodo dragon like creatures, maybe, maybe. But when looking at the Nian, we gotta we we gotta take it as it is a very, very, very good story that is about a a very likely to be a very real threat that happens once a year, and it is a creature that is described from a very, let's say, uninformed society, usually in the dark at night. Described the one common thing that everything has is one horn. In the dark, I don't know, proboscis looks like a
Yeah,
horn to me, especially if that thing's charging at you, right? It's large, it's an animal. I'm going to keep going back on this ancient rhinoceros theory because I think it fits it extremely well, especially with the musk theory that once a year a male somewhere in the mountains in musk in heat is going to go down the mountain, is going to be attracted by all the free food that's being gathered there. Chinese New Year is held during the Lunar New Year, correct? Is
hmm,
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that when usually the harvest starts or ends?
usually, yeah, yep,
Yes. So there's an abundance of vegetable matter and food in that village. As we've already discussed, Matt has already told us that during must, herbivores eat more. They're more aggressive. They're more prone to wanting to take territory. I could definitely see something like that rampaging through an
yeah.
ancient Chinese village,
Well,
just
I mean, the
ransacking.
thing is, so As much as I don't think it may have been this fossil, I do agree that in terms of it being maybe, let's say, an ancestor of rhinos, right, or something along those lines, if you were to look at the color, I mean, okay, maybe not the color red per se, but the loud sounds, the firecrackers, the
Yes.
whatever goes on, that would be enough to chase away that whatever creature it is. Because most creatures, I mean, animals, if you throw firecrackers in front of a lion, uh, a tiger, whatever, they're gonna be afraid of that sound. So I could see this coming on, but with the color, I mean, I think KK Hing mentioned about it sounds like it was bullfighting. Now, funny fact, just side fact, the color of the cape which the bullfighters use against bulls actually doesn't make a difference.
Yep.
It's actually the motion of which it does. So some people suggest that the banners that people put up in front of the houses, especially the ones that were vertical and come down, that blowing in the wind may be something that throws them off. That could be just a suggest. I mean, could be something that they say.
Yep. 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 But my thing is going with extinct rhinoceros because the three things that is stated in the story: uh, flowing fabric, rhino like vision, very bad vision, based on movement, a lot of movement, particularly sensitive to vibrations, the firecrackers, and loud noises, as well as smell.
Yeah.
You forget that firecrackers, when they go off, we haven't had firecrackers in Singapore for a while, but memory from way back when, they smell. They smell pretty bad, and especially if you have a lot of them going off, not very pleasant. To an animal that is very heightened, that has very heightened senses, like smell, that it uses to navigate. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter how enraged you are, you're getting out of there.
Yep. I mean, I think we've given you kind of the gist of what this creature is, and also just a short answer to Sarvan's question. Currently, no, there aren't any rhinos found in China, unless it's you're just talking about the horns, but that's for something completely different reason.
Like how
But
do I? They're imported.
yeah, for different reasons, we won't get into it too much. But to kind of just tie in everything that we want to say, like whatever the Nian is, to a lot of people, the Nian was a very important part of Chinese culture. A lot of
Mm,
the traditions that we currently have are based on the story of the Nian. Now, there are even stories that people say that suggest that lion dancing as the act itself as a martial art. Now, it began way back in the 600 AD in the Tang Dynasty.
mm,
Now, a lot of people actually say that the lion dance in itself has come from the story of the Nian. Now, because of how, for example, the Nian comes in, and usually sometimes when you see that person or you see that bald man that sort of dances with the Nian,
mm,
some people suggest that that story actually came from when the man, was mingling or sort of, let's say, dancing with the Nian or trying to get it away. Now, regardless of that, it's still a very important part of culture. But over time, with the lion dance happening, if you like, even as a kid or somebody now, if you're when you were a kid, you saw a lion, you wouldn't be particularly afraid of it. It's just become more as the stories lost its fear factor. It became more familiar with everybody. It became something like a household name. And when you see it,
mm.
you're not scared of it anymore. And it's been part of your culture. You see it every time, and you see what it does. And I think it's very important that the stories just keep going. And at the end of the day, we may never know exactly what the Nian is. I think this is a bit of a, is it a legend or is it something that actually exists? I think it's a bit hard to say. Yeah.
Now, my take on that is that there's a very interesting phenomenon that happens with the story of the Nian when 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 Chinese civilization got to the point where it was more of a dynastic rule when the emperors were around, right? Education started becoming very, very much more prevalent. Literacy became very much more prevalent. The rise of biology, classification, and the sciences. Now, around this time is when the story of the Nian dropped off. Big One of my big theories on that is that the Nian is a real creature, was a real
Mhm.
creature, and was classified. And in that similar vein, where we have classified what a lion or a tiger is, and it loses all its fear factor to us in a in a safe setting, the same thing happened with the Nian, where it was found, it was classified, and it was properly described. Now, don't know. We still do not know what it exactly is, but it is very, very likely that it is something that is extinct currently and was in a lot of textbooks. Unfortunately, those textbooks, very rare to find, a lot of them were destroyed. So we're not going to really be able to know unless we find some weird fragment somewhere in some very old person's derelict attic that
Well, I mean,
somehow.
I think it's even further than that. You got to go to museums, be able to read Chinese, which
Oh
unfortunately
no
I
no no no!
can't.
We're way past that point already. We need to go into like one of the tombs, right? We need to discover like a new tomb of one of the
Of a
emperors,
new
and it
text.
yeah,
I
and
see what you
it
mean.
just so happens that this particular emperor had a very keen interest in sciences and biology and kept one of those books describing what is a Nian.
Yeah,
Uh, Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you know, like I said, we we don't want to tell you exactly what it is because again, we don't really know. But hopefully, what we have gone through and kind of basically described to you what the Nian is, kind of gives you enough to maybe further research it, find out more, and if you can actually find more better descriptions of what the Nian is or actual historical text, feel free to send it to us. We would love to see it as well.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, I think we we actually are pretty much wrapped up. And
So
I do want to leave some time so that we can go through some questions and comments. I know we haven't really been looking at the comments. I think we kind of got wrapped up in it. We do want to go back a little bit.
I
But
mean,
yes.
um, so this is, I think, going to be I think what we decided is that we are going to be a bit more methodical with On the Fringe. Uh, kind of looking at stories and deconstructing it a little bit more, being a lot more, um, looking past all the, how to say, the pop culture, all the fluff, all the fat that comes with all these cryptids, all these like even like semi like supernatural stories that we're going to be covering in the future as well. So we need to be very 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 laser focused in what we are trying to deconstruct and what we're picking out and what we are the little marbles of information in every legend in every story. So we're going to be doing that. So yeah, tell us you know if you like it or not, because this is a I think it's a very near and dear and very interesting aspect of cryptozoology.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we do have some things we want to share with you guys. Like the reason I think I spoke for those that weren't here in the beginning, the reason why we changed the show to 8 p.m. Was one, so we can give you guys a slightly more energetic show. One, and also because it's the middle of the week, we don't want you guys to stay up too late. And even for us, for Bill and myself, we do work also, so we don't want to, have you guys stay up too late in the middle of the week and then tomorrow we die
Well,
together.
yeah, like Matt as a family, I am currently trying to build a family. So
Yeah, but I mean, we do have a lot of things coming forward in this actually even this month for On the Fringe. We do have a lot. We actually have a few topics. We do are doing something slightly different now. Last season, what we did is we left every episode or topic up to you guys, and this season, what we're gonna do is we're doing the same thing, but we're gonna limit it to one schedule, one episode a month. Now that would be usually at the end. So I'll give you guys a hint, but next week we're actually talking about a cryptid that is the, I would say, the father of all cryptids.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So it's the father of all cryptids. If you know what it is, stay tuned and we'll let you know of the announcement soon enough.
I'm very
Now, I
excited.
think we have a question
Yes.
that actually asked, does the Nian eat spirits too? Um, so far, based on what we have seen in terms of the stories and all the research that we've done, there are no stories of it actually eating any spirits. I think the idea of it was that it would actually scare things away or scare people, scare spirits or bad luck away, which is why you have the lion dance. Now, that's also not just the case because people say that it's
Mm.
actually the drumming and the sounds which takes the Nian away. But because the Nian was the king of the beasts or the king of the mountain at that point in time, it scares away everything else. So not necessarily.
Yep.
But yeah, we next week topic is I would say it's a bit it's okay. It's very in depth and there's a lot of evidence of it and there's a lot of different theories of it. I already have my theory on it. So come back next week and we will definitely discuss it. But
Yes.
if you guys do have other interesting topics, we are looking into even more stuff. We are looking into doing sort of spiritual stuff, that things that kind of fall within the supernatural as
We're
well.
gonna be
We are
looking at
looking at
more
cults.
Asia-centric cryptids this season, hopefully. So if you know of any, you put that in that episode.
Yeah,
You
but
put that poll.
we also will be looking at stories from Singapore. Now, not necessarily cryptic base, but to do with cults. Cult murders, murders that revolve around the supernatural. I think it's something that maybe we can't really address on Friday Night Lives because that's more for the confessions. But here, where we can actually sit down and debunk and sort of look through it together, I think that's something that would be very interesting for us to do this year. So if you do have stories, I already have one for this coming, okay, not this month, but there
Mm.
is a story that I think a lot of Singaporeans know about. It's based on a cult murder per se. I think people like KK Hing may know about
Wait,
it,
wait,
or
you're
you will
giving it
know.
away too much. In Singapore,
No,
there's
no,
not
I'm
many.
just
There's not many cult murders. Come on, you're giving it away.
well, we have to leave you in suspense. We can't
Yes.
tell you too much, but it'd be very interesting to sit down and look because we're gonna get a lot of topics, a lot of different. We've done Bukitima Monkey Man. That's not it. We're looking at a specific cult murder. So if you know what it is, you can let us know
I don't think Bukit
in
Timah
the
Monkey Man was a
comments.
cult murder. How dare you
That
insult the
was
Bukit Timah Monkey Man?
yeah, and we have a lot of things. Even as a whole in the on Supernatural Confessions network itself, we have things that are very interesting and very what's the word? Very exciting coming up, especially in the middle of the year. I again can't tell you too much until the announcement really comes,
Mm.
but you may be able to see us more
Yep.
and in a different light or in different situation, not
Yes.
necessarily on the screen. I feel like I'm saying a lot already, so you can get the hint and just stay tuned for the announcement because that will
Yes.
be coming at some point.
Yes. In the meantime, I believe we have comments, we have questions that we can answer.
Are there more questions?
Are there more questions? I don't know. Like, was there more? All right. Fantastic. Okay.
All right then. Well, we're excited to be starting a new season of On The Fringe. I think this is a good episode to start. Though we may not have really interacted with you guys, we do see you. We see we see Rachel H, we see Navi, we see Alistair Adrian Tra, we see KK Hing. There's
Yep.
a lot of people who were still here last year.
Yep.
Welcome back, Jill Chong. A lot of you coming back, Sarah Vanen. So stay tuned. We thank you always for the support. KK Hing said the conspiracy of lizard people. Well, maybe at some point. But yes, that's also where we're looking into this year. So, hi to all of you guys. Thank you guys for always showing us support. We're back
Yep.
again, and this
Yep.
year it's going to be a little bit more exciting. I would say the topics are going to be a lot more exciting, a lot more broad. So,
Well,
just
it's gonna be
remember
a lot
our
more.
shows.
We're
Go ahead.
hoping that like the topics are and the new delivery system is going to be like a lot more informative and a lot more like cerebral and like. So there you
Yes.
go. There you go. We're using three syllabus words.
Yes. But yes, there's a lot more to come this year. So don't forget, On the Fringe this season, or actually maybe next season as well. We will be starting at 8 p.m., not
Yes.
10 p.m.
Yes.
This is again so that we can have a better show. But if you can't watch it, if you can't tune into the live show, you can always find us on Supernatural Confessions. You know where to find us. You can watch us
Yes.
there. You can also look into TikTok once in a while because we do have some short snippets that will be posted there. So look there. We also have our Discord channel where you can always send us stuff. Bill and I may not always reply, but we will be always looking at it. So have a look there as well. You can find us. At
I
least
always reply.
you can also you okay, fine. And you will also find us on
Just add
our
me.
Facebook page at Supernatural Confessions. Or if you want to join our private group, you can go to Supernatural Confessions private group. It must be the
Hmm.
Hantu. And
Hmm.
if you do want to see more, a bit more with the Hantu, tune into our Friday shows on Friday Night Lives with Eugene and John.
Yes. We may be
Sign us
doing
out.
a few guest appearances
Oh yeah,
on Friday night.
oh yeah, we will be doing more guests. Oh wait, what us?
Yes.
Oh,
Us
I mean
as in appearing on
we
Friday night.
we may also be having guests on our show. So, we may be bringing someone who you guys know, somebody who used to do a little bit of research himself, but more into the Hantu and also does stuff like that. So, we may
Yes.
have an episode with that little somebody. We can't tell you who until we figure it out.
Yes. Yes. Fantastic. Right. All right. All right. It's
All
been a
right.
while, so
You can sign
um
us out, Bill. Do you remember what you have to say?
the truth is always out there. Now. That's all I remember.
Was that it?
That- that's what I remember. That's what I remember.
That was weak, Bill. I mean, to be fair, I was just buying time because I can't remember what I used to. I know what I used to sign out,
So
but
remember, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is always out there, and there's on the fringe. Bill and Matt signing out. Have a great rest of the night.
yes. So tune in next week, where the exciting journey is into the unknown, only on the Fringe. See you guys next week. Bye.
What did you find?
You are listening to Supernatural